Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Christine Dixon of the Ordinary Sacred, and I am so happy you're here. This is going to be a part two of the Q&A that I posted last time. I got so many wonderful questions for the live Q&A that I wasn't able to answer then, so I wanted to answer them here. So before I get to those wonderful questions, just a little bit of housekeeping. The free events for the Ordinary Sacred for this week. There's always a member-led IFS small group that happens every Tuesday. And you can get the Zoom links and all the information about those by becoming a member of the private Ordinary Sacred Facebook group. And I'll put the link down there. It's completely free to join the Facebook group and to attend those meetings. But make sure that you answer the questions when you request to join the group, because you'll be denied if you don't answer the questions or agree to the guidelines. And you'll need to maybe scroll down a little bit to make sure you check agree to the guidelines. And then this coming Thursday, we have a special treat. We're going to do some nonviolent communication games together. The women at Grok the World, which is basically a nonviolent communication card game. They're going to lead a session for us where we play around with how to communicate our feelings, our needs, how to creatively problem solve, and how to provide empathy first for ourselves and for each other, but in a really fun way. So I'm going to include the link to register below. I was recently having trouble with the link, but hopefully it will work. And if I get a new link, I'll change it. But I hope to see you there if you're able to attend. It'll be Thursday, 1 p.m. Central Time. I think the time might change by then, so just make sure that you're checking time zones, and it'll be whatever 1 p.m. is in Texas area. Okay, let's see. Let's get to the wonderful questions that people sent me. This one was from someone in the private Ordinary Sacred Facebook group. I think if you want to look it up, it's called the Ordinary Sacred IFS Community on Facebook, and it's a private group. This person asks, how can I tell if a legacy burden is because of my culture or just something I got from my individual family / my parents? This is a good question, and it reminds me of Dick Schwartz. He'll often say that sometimes he feels like a broken record because he'll tell people the same answer over and over. But it really is true. The answer is to go in and ask the parts directly how they got this burden. And they will tell you exactly. They will show you experiences that they had with your parents, or they might show you experiences with your culture. And honestly, it might not be either or, it might be a both and. It might go far back in your line. It might be, you know, everyone on your mother's side, or, for generations back, or everyone on your father's side, or the women on your mother's side, or the women on your mother's side and your father's side, or the men, or it can go back quite far. But again, the way to find the answer is genuinely to just connect with the part, whether you visualize the part or you find where you feel the energy of that part in or around your body, and you just ask directly. And you can say, are you from my parents? And get a yes or no. Or are you from the culture? Yes or no. Or just show me what you want me to know about how you took on this burden. And if parts of you who are blocking the way are willing to give you space, you will be able to just receive an answer. So I liken this to, let's say you have on this amazing multicolored jacket, and there's a group of people in front of you, and they're saying, "Ooh, I wonder where she got that." Ooh, I bet she got it at a thrift store. No, no, no. It looks higher end than that. I bet she got it at the nice, I don't know, store, fancy store. No, it was probably a hand-me-down from her mother or her grandmother. And they're talking in front of you. And what they could do is just ask you directly, hey, where did you get your jacket? Right? And you could tell them, you know where you got your jacket, right? It's the same kind of thing. Your parts do know if it's from your parents or it's from culture or legacy or both and they will show you and they will tell you exactly how they took on that burden. Um, what blocks the way sometimes is either parts who are just so used to finding the answers outside and not asking directly inside, or they're kind of skeptical about the process. They feel like they have to make up the answers rather than receive them. And so there can be kind of intellectual thinking parts, skeptical parts, parts that just want to get it right. And so you want to acknowledge those parts and really ask if they'll give you space so that you can talk directly to a part and ask it a question just like you would a person in front of you. And it will show you. It might not use words and tell you directly, but it might show you images or memories or give you sensations in your body or posture or sounds, or it'll communicate with you in whatever way conveys its message to you. So sometimes you can even just ask, what do you want me to know about you or how you got this burden, and receive. So good question. Thank you. Let's go to the next question. Okay. This person is also from the private Facebook group. Says, I have a very specific question and I'm not sure whether it is possible to answer. Yes, it is. It is. Is there something like pre-verbal parts? And if so, how can I get to know them better? Good question. My impression is that I sometimes deal with, all caps, very young, burdened parts, in parentheses, baby parts, and that they are not accessible through language, right? I do connect to those through somatics, yet I wonder whether there is anything in IFS that covers or tackles this. Thank you so much. No problem if there's no answer. There is, there is. So I've dealt with my own kind of infant baby parts and also in many instances with clients. So you're definitely not alone. It's definitely a thing. For me, what's interesting is when I would feel any kind of dysregulation in my body or overwhelm, panic, terror, deep sadness, shame, anger, any of those kinds of things. What I learned is to go to a private place and turn inward and say, oh, I see you're suffering. I'm here with you. And then I would ask, how old are you? And I've personally gotten everything from 0, infant, to yesterday. I'm from yesterday. And so I remember when I got the age, it just, again, you're not thinking it up, it's just you receive it. There's a number, or there's the sense of it. And the answer was infant, right? I'm a baby. And because I was in self, I had a very natural, intuitive inclination of what to do for a baby. Some people will say, "Oh, I don't know how to co-regulate with a baby because I didn't have an example, I didn't have that experience." But I do want to encourage you that yourself does know. So if you are blended with another part, maybe a caretaking part, maybe again a part who feels like they have to figure it out, you want to just acknowledge them, thank them for their help, and ask them if they'll give you space, even if there's nothing, even if there's no response, because they're so afraid of the nothing or of getting it wrong often. Say, no, you cannot fail. You cannot get it wrong. If you are willing to give me space and just see how myself responds to this part who is an infant or is not verbal, right? Because you might have an intellectual part that's used to interacting with parts and figuring things out and asking them questions and kind of talking on a verbal level. But yourself will know, I mean, obviously when babies are young, we're not able to communicate and interact on a verbal level. It really is in our energy, in our touch, the tone of our voice, our availability to be with them. And so what I personally have found that myself will do when I know that there's a infant part blended with me is sometimes I will kind of hold like I'm holding the baby tight, right? Like babies like to be wrapped tight and held tight. I might rock back and forth because babies really like to be rocked. Sometimes I'll get in an actual fetal position on my bed. I might stroke my hair and just say, I'm here with you. I'm here with you. You're not alone, right? And this is often when there's really distressing emotions. And I'll say, it's okay. It's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to be angry, to be afraid. You can get bigger. I'm here with you, right? And again, I'm not necessarily even just saying this, but I'm showing it that I'm a presence that's here with it and letting them know you're not alone. And can I hold you? Can I be with you? Can I let you be emotional and not try to stifle you or stop you or shame you or anything like that? Just let you feel whatever you're feeling. Um, so so again, I mean, I can tell you lots of things that are soothing to babies and to preverbal young children, but genuinely, yourself will know what to do, even specifically for that child. Like, perhaps they really want you to rub arms or rub legs or um, stroke the side of their face or for me, the one that I was feeling like really liked the stroking of the hair. So, so again, you can kind of see how the infant part is responding to you. If they're able to, sometimes they'll be crying and hyperventilating, and then gradually will co-regulate with you. Um, but but yeah, again, it's about asking any parts that are blocking the way from your natural compassionate energy to go toward that child. So if you're having feelings like, I don't know what to do, or this is so tiring, this is so hard, am I going to get it right? Any kind of urgency or fear in that kind of way, then you know that you're blended with another part and you can recognize them and say, hey, can you give me space and let me try it? So I hope that helps. All right. The next question is, why is my system surprised I am actually alive? And why can I not feel it more often? Is it a protector? Yes, it likely is a protector. Um, and there are potentially several parts that are interacting here is what I'm seeing and when you say I cannot feel it more often, I'm assuming like aliveness or maybe just being in your body. There can be parts that have learned to take you or me out of our bodies. So through dissociation, which can look like, escaping in lots of different things, so that we're not present. Anything that doesn't allow us to be present in this moment in our bodies, because it was not safe in the past to be fully present, alive in this body. Other times, dissociation looks like a sense of numbness or detachment from life. Sometimes it can feel like you're looking in on your own life, like you're not actually living your own life. It's someone else's, kind of a depersonalization. It can be just kind of spacing, losing track of time and just numbing out in that way. You can use, any kind of addiction or binging of things. So parts can use all kinds of ways to get us to detach from our lives. So it's as if we're like zombies, right? We're just going through life, but we're not actually there. We're not actually awake and alive and attuned to our experience. There, I would say maybe even a majority of people are doing that. on the planet. And really, when we wake up, when our bodies and our minds and our parts inside feel safe enough, then we can actually be present. But it's interesting that you say, my system is surprised I'm actually alive. So again, those might be other parts that are, I imagine, and you can ask them directly, that think you are a different age than you are. And perhaps you went through some really, really difficult things and they believed that you wouldn't survive it. And so they can't believe that you're actually still alive, right? Again, that's a hunch. You can go in directly. So what you would want to do is ask the parts who are surprised that you're still alive, kind of if they'll show themselves to you, you might sense them somewhere in or around your body, just their surprise. You might see them, you might sense them in front of you, that kind of thing. But you just want to really focus on the parts that are surprised and just ask them, how old do you think I am? Or you can ask them any question you genuinely feel curious about. Who do you see when you look at me? Or why would you think that I wouldn't be alive? What happened? And they'll tell you, they'll give you all the insight. It's like the other questions I was answering. If you ask them directly, they will tell you. It's why Dick Schwartz calls it insight, because you genuinely receive answers from the parts as if they are people outside of you. And when they tell you, you go, oh, 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 and it's like you're really receiving this information for the first time. It's so wonderful facilitating this work and watching a person, because when they're hearing directly from their parts, they'll kind of be inside and they'll ask a question and I watch them go, oh, 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 right. Like, it's as if, someone's talking to them and they're receiving this information for the first time. And they usually have an aha, an insight, or they laugh. So yeah, go inside and ask the parts that are surprised. And they might point you to parts that take you out of your body, or they might point you back to moments in your past where you almost didn't survive, where they need you yourself to go in and bring those parts out of those moments and update them that you are still alive. And if you are safe in your environment now, they can begin to help you come back into, or yourself can help them feel safe enough to come back into your body, to keep updating. We're safe now. We're safe now. If you are not safe now in your environment, in your relationships, through the relationship with them, you may gradually, step by step, as your system's ready, move away from the unsafe relationship or environment. Because it's not until you're fully safe in a safe environment, safe relationships, that you can come back into your body and fully live. So I hope that was helpful. And there is one more question. Let's see. This person says, and this was, I think it was a DM on Instagram. Okay. It says, I'm not sure what I'm trying to ask, but perhaps how to work with a part that feels like no one ever says the quote unquote right thing. This part has been around forever and tends to ruin relationships because she is constantly quote unquote criticizing others. And she says, this is other people's words, not mine. When she feels like they say something that's unhelpful or feels like they don't understand. It also feels like whatever they say is never enough. Yep. I think part of it is that this part is always looking for others to help her self-soothe, but also wants them to quote unquote get it right and say the thing that's going to make me feel better. When they don't quite get it right, or they say something that actually helps, or they don't say something that actually helps me feel better, that part gets triggered. Yep. I totally understand what you're saying. Let's see, there's another part to the question. Let me see if I can get it. Okay. I don't know if that makes any sense. Yes, it does. But someone said the other day that I am critiquing them, and that was not my intention. It felt like the part was in pain. Yes. So I don't know what this part even wants, or if I even know what to say to it. Yet here I am critiquing everyone else. Yes. And you are not critiquing everyone else. It's this part because that's what it's learned to do. Um, so yes, yes. This is so fascinating. One, you are definitely not alone. I've experienced this. I've worked with many, many people who've experienced this. So essentially, you have this protective part who has such beautiful intention. It's like, I really want the other people in my life to get this right, to be able to help the one inside who's feeling pain. And often, whenever we have any parts that kind of act extreme toward other people, they experience it as attack, right? Because our protective parts are protective of us and our system, not of them. So they experience it as attack. And they don't, it's like the attacking one is here and the one in pain is underneath. So you feel the pain. But when the one who's critiquing or attacking is here, the other person doesn't necessarily see the pain you're in. Instead, they're busy defending themselves and their intentions, right? So that's why, protective parts that are burdened and extreme, they often create the very thing that they hate or that they don't want. And so it's proposing to that critic, the outer critic, um, what if you rested just for a little bit? It'll likely say, I can't, because I have to protect this one who's in pain. I have to. It sounds like what I'm hearing is that this part thinks, again, I've worked with many, many people who have parts like this. They've learned that they have to get help and co-regulation and soothing from a person outside of themselves. So the thing that I post on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube that I inevitably get the most backlash about is when I use this phrase that Dick Schwartz talks about, that we need to each be our own primary caregiver. And many people who have experienced attachment wounding as kids, when they were at such a fragile state and they desperately needed their parent to attach to them, but that didn't happen, or they were told they were a crybaby or, too needy or whatever. One of the strategies that parts will develop, sometimes parts will develop the strategy of total independence. I don't need anybody, never need anybody. They're going to let me down. But another one is, especially young parts will keep trying to attach. I have to get my needs met by someone outside of me. And it feels like life or death because these parts are very young. And it was life or death. But like sometimes I'll say to clients that I've worked with, unfortunately, I cannot be your mother, right? Or your parent. Because a lot of times they have these parts, these young parts that are trying to attach to me. Like, you've got to create this well-being for me in my system. And I know that I can't do it. And so I'll say, unfortunately, I cannot be your mother or your parent. But the good news is you can. And I know that some parts feel frustrated by that. And normally the parts that feel frustrated by that are young parentified child parts. They're parts that had to take care of you when you were young because you didn't have caregivers who were taking care of you. And so they're tired and they're fed up. And so when they hear that, they react to me and they say, what? How dare you? I've been trying to find, my savior, the one who's going to help me in partners, in friends, in therapists, and teachers, my whole life. And you're crushing my dream. You're telling me I'm not going to find that. And I've had to take care of myself all this time. And I try to explain, yes, but your caretaking young parts are taking care of your system. They can rest. They don't have to work anymore. When those parts rest back and you're core essence that is naturally loving and curious and confident and creative is able to come forward, it's effortless. It feels effortless. The self does not grow tired. It can meet with parts all day long and turn toward them and be with them. The only prerequisite for that is that the other parts are willing to give space. So sometimes it's a little bit of an experiment at first, because they're so used to running the show, these parts who've tried so hard to grasp at other people or take care of you on the inside, that they think that you're going to die if they don't do it. So you need to be really tender with them and appreciate them and say, what if you just rested? Like imagine going to a beach and resting on a hammock and just letting self meet with the part who feels such pain just for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 90 seconds, and just to see what happens, right? So Dick Schwartz, I talk about this all the time, but he has this wonderful book called You Are the One You've Been Waiting For. And it's about romantic relationships, but it's really about any relationship, because it's about the relationship with yourself. And he has this beautiful metaphor at the beginning of these basement children who have been starved and they didn't get any attention. So then when, some Pied Piper or whatever, some guy comes to the door and is willing to feed them pizza and candy, and they jump at it and they want kind of the junk food from this person, but it can't satisfy them. And so they're constantly let down by it. However, if they were having home cooked meals within their own house, they were having nutritious, whole foods, and they felt nourished. If the Pied Piper, the junk food guy came to the door, they'd be like, no, I don't need that. I'm already fulfilled and sustained. But say someone comes to the door and they're like, that's great. You're cooking for your own children, and I cook for my children too. And we can cook together. And then you have two people who are their own primary caregivers, where they're basically caring for the children within their own system. And they don't have to grasp at the other, because also the experience of being the one grasped at is very difficult, because it does feel like I can't ever get it right. And the truth is they can't get it right, because you are the most highly equipped person on the planet to care for the inner children in your family, because not only do you know everything that they have experienced during your whole life, so you get it, you know exactly what they've been through, and you can express that to them. But two, you are available to them 24/7. Another person cannot possibly be available to us 24/7. They can't possibly know all the nuances of what's happening inside of us. The best possible relationship, when the other person is our secondary caregiver, is when we have a vertical relationship with ourselves first, and we go inside and we really listen to the parts of us, and then we speak for them to the other person. So in your case, what that might look like is, wow, I am really noticing that there's this one that's up front that's criticizing and kind of grasping at you, really desperately wants you to get it right. But what I'm experiencing underneath that one is actually one that's in deep pain. And so I'm going to go and be with that one for a little bit and just hold her and comfort her, listen to her. And then if you'd like, I can come back out and tell you what that experience was like, right? So you can still bond and connect with the other person, but you're not expecting them to give your young parts what only you can give. And I just, again, want to really validate your experience. I had this experience just a couple days ago, right? And I have a partner who's incredibly wonderful. Like, to me, the best possible partner in the entire world. And I had parts that were activated by some certain things in my life, and they were coming up, and I could tell that they were young and they were really insecure and vulnerable and in pain. And they were kind of saying that they wanted to be spoken for to my partner. And so I did that, but the response wasn't exactly what they wanted, right? And so I said, it's okay. It's okay. We're going to go to another room. And I laid on the bed and I turned toward them and I said, I see you. I get your insecurity. I know what your experiences have been in the past. And I love you. It's okay for you to feel this way. I'm here with you. I'm not going anywhere. Just loved on them and let them feel what they felt. And it just washed away. And there was no need anymore for any other person to understand my experience. So I will often say, whenever you have this desperate need for another person to get you, to understand your experience, try turning on the inside to those parts who are feeling desperate and really listen to them, what they need. Again, like I was saying with the preverbal parts, you might have parts like, because you were saying, I don't even know what to say to these parts. Again, that's likely a part who's trying to do the right thing and trying to figure it out. And if you can ask those parts if they'll just give you space to be with the young parts, they have to gain evidence of it, that it's possible. So at the beginning, there's a lot of negotiation. For me, my system was so full of inner critics pointing at me and my other parts that my system didn't trust that I could be compassionate with my hurting parts because they were used to dealing with my inner critics that were really mean. So I had to really work with my inner critics first to really appreciate their intention so that they would relax back. So I had to give love and compassion and curiosity to my critics so they could relax, so that the one who could give curiosity and compassion could go toward the ones in pain. And then my system learned, oh, things go so much better when we back up and we let the wise and loving adult self go toward these young parts in pain. And sometimes they need help. Sometimes they just need you to listen to them. Sometimes they need you to take care of a need to help them. Or sometimes they just need to be held and be allowed to feel whatever they're feeling. And then they're okay. Just like a child, right? Who needs to cry and be held and then and be validated, right? And yourself will know, I guarantee you, yourself will know what to do. If you feel like you don't know what to do, it means that you're blended with another part who's trying to figure it out. Appreciate that part. Ask them if they'll just experiment with giving you space for a little bit to be with it. Sometimes you might have self-like parts or helper parts that will use, like mine used a mantra that Thich Nhat Hanh uses. It was actually really helpful at first to give my system experience. So I would put my hand on my heart anytime I would notice these parts that were in deep pain, and I would say, beloved, I see your suffering and I'm here. I'm here with you. And it was just very, very quick. But I would go to a private place, the bathroom, the closet, and I would be feeling so much pain. And I would just put my hand and say, beloved, I see your suffering and I'm here. I'm here with you. You don't need to change. You can be however you are. I'm here with you. And often it would come up in more tears, or, they're just allowed to feel. And the wave of emotion would rise and fall. And in its wake would be clarity, more self-energy, clarity, confidence, calm, creativity. And I could go back out to the other person basically with self-energy. And I could say, oh, I had this part that was just in so much pain because she had experienced this in her upbringing or with her abusive relationship or whatever. And I was able to help her and be with her. And so last thing I'll say is that the more you are able to be your own primary caregiver, it sets your partner, your friends, the people in your life free, because they are free now to care for themselves and to give to you from overflow. And you're free to care for yourself and to give to them from overflow. And you're not grasping, or that's what it feels like to them. But I know for you, it's just a desperate, I need love and attention. So just propose to them that what could happen if you could do that inside. Just try it for a few seconds and see what happens. Because I know they don't believe it at first. I know they don't. But they need evidence to see if it's true or not. All right, thanks for that great question. Thank you, everybody. And if you have any comments about you relate to these experiences, or you have anything that you want to add to what I've said, or maybe it sparks other questions for you, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.